Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Fiction Activity with Q and Atra. I'm Q.
I'm Atra.
And dude, you were like peppy 3 seconds ago. Come on.
I'm getting into character.
Focus.
I am
All
an
right.
actor.
No comment on actors. Anyways, so tonight we are joined by Celevon and Draven Aranos. I hope I pronounced that right.
Close enough.
Yeah. From Clan Arcona. He was our studio audience before. Now he's actually a guest speaker. We'll be talking about his character later. But first, we're going to be talking about canonicity of stuff.
Canonicity of stuff.
And stuff and things.
Wow, you're expanding. I can't
I
handle it.
know. It's amazing.
Oh my god, the studio audience talked.
We have a studio audience today, apparently, by the name of Addie. She was on the show last week.
You let me in here.
We really
Q,
shouldn't have.
You said but first, and I immediately pictured Jim Carrey from The Mask.
But first, word from our sponsors. Moving on.
So we'll be talking about canon items versus practical bullshit that people just don't want to acknowledge because it wasn't in the comics, shows, or books.
Which will also actually expand out into why we differentiate between canon and legends and merge into what I like to call DB canon. Yeah, it's important stuff, mostly.
Hey, I fall into that crowd too, especially when it comes to Q's foul language. I don't use the canon version of Star Wars profanity. I use the expanded universe because it expands the...
It expands the vocabulary.
Exactly.
What do you mean swearing? I would never.
And you're the reason we have a frickin' warning at the beginning of these things, because I wasn't spending 2 hours bleeping you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also hope so. Anyways.
Moving on.
Let's get into it then. So I think probably the very first place to start would be the age-old question of underwear. It is rather famously acknowledged that George Lucas feels, for one reason or another, that may or may not be lecherous, there's no underwear in space.
Wait, that's a legit George Lucas thing? That's not just fans that...
Yeah, that's a Lucas thing.
That's what he told Carrie and why she wasn't allowed to wear a bra in the first movie.
I thought it was because her outfit was a bra. And
no, that would be episodes. That would be episode 6. We're talking episode 4.
Yeah, we're talking episode 4 when she basically had saran wrap holding her tatas down.
Yep. But as we've seen in a lot of extended universe, namely the KOTOR games, where people are, often thrown into torture chambers, jail cells, etc., or, just disrobing their characters because they do that. And without the aids of mods that would alter the scenario beyond the constraints of extended universe and what is acceptable practicality, we do see that they have underwear. It's not pretty, but it's underwear. We're not talking lingerie. We're talking underwear.
Lingerie?
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 It's a running joke. I called it lingerie one time when I was working on a freight truck, and then I stopped and thought I was really stupid. I'm like, right, lingerie.
This coming from the...
You say not lingerie yet. Speaking of KOTOR, Handmaiden, Darkside?
Yeah, she kind of has some frills. No, like the bra is all frilly. Anyways, it's been a while since I played the KOTOR games. Cell, that's all you have on your computer until recently when you got New Vegas. So
yes.
You're more... Yeah, you're more up to date on the KOTOR references than I am.
I'd say so, considering I just played it the other day.
Yeah. So we essentially say F it to that noise, And
Yep.
we have, you know what? Your character can do your character. If you want to wear underwear, then you're gonna wear underwear. If you don't want to, that's
Go Commando.
societally unacceptable. But you know, you do you.
Hey, it's only societally unacceptable if you walk around naked, and only if you're not part of a nudist colony.
Right?
That
Then
largely
again-
depends on the culture.
I was about to say we're projecting onto a galaxy worth of cultures here.
Yeah.
Which is actually a large part of the point. Is that it's an entire galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, as we said in the very first episode, cities become planets when it comes to Star Wars. So it's everything is just macro level as opposed to the micro as we would have it. But yeah, there's a lot of space in, well, space. So
So intelligent this episode. So intelligent.
hey, if it works for GLaDOS,
Let's
I
see,
do
what's
not understand this reference.
that's a portal. thing.
Portal.
Oh, okay.
space.
That's kind of what I generally default, especially when I find something to be kind of bullshit or I can't find an answer to a question with canon is somewhere out in the entire fucking galaxy there has to be underwear or there has to be, I don't know, an old-fashioned door lock or something.
Well, I mean,
Oh yes, doors and door locks.
Yeah.
That's what I
Also,
was
this,
trying to
ladies
think
and gentlemen, is why we have that disclaimer.
yeah, the swearing.
of. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
like
sorry.
not every area in the galaxy is going to be super high tech Star Trek doors. You're going to have your old fashioned doors in huts. Hell, Clone Wars had a hut where a clone who either, I can't remember the specifics of the episode right now because I'm visual, but what happened was there was a clone who either abandoned the war or lost his memory and was living with a Twi'lek that had human Twi'lek crossbreed children. And they were in a hut and just had a regular door. It was made out of patched together Durasteel, but it was a regular door. It wasn't slidey door.
He was a deserter.
Thank you.
The one you're thinking about is another episode. Who lost his memory?
Yeah, they do
That's-
those tropes all over the place. But anyways, it proves that there are less
Doors.
The
advanced
point stands.
housings.
Like Coruscant is, obviously, and the entire planet is a city and a multi-level one. But like Alpharides, however you want to say that, for the Mirloka homeworld, I tend to write as being largely rural and having structures actually made of wood. Oh my god, wood! Yes, it still exists.
Yes, trees exist. And if we really wanted to go with the KOTOR 2 route, your homeworld was, how should I phrase this?
Glassed.
No. Yeah.
No, it was consumed by Darth Nihilus.
I thought it was like a sun thing, like it got.
No, he ate the world's
Irradiated.
force. He ate all life on the planet.
What the fuck is this?
Right? Welcome to the extended universe.
No, that's welcome to Mary Sudom, but we're not getting into that tonight.
Well, that's a topic for another time, and we have plenty of people who could come in for that one.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's when we will have a Terrell.
Shush!
We will not be naming names.
There will be no names.
And no, that wasn't a Terrell as a Mary Sue for those listening at home. That was a Terrell as a good guest for such a rant.
Oh yeah.
It will be a rant.
Who doesn't? So let's see. We've got old-fashioned doors, old-fashioned technology.
Yeah, there's still your makeshift stuff. You're gonna have the stuff that people throw together. You got the Ewoks with their stone axes and their spears.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that are a little bit contentious, like flimsoplast versus paper. Like, I think it's an acknowledged thing that paper isn't around anymore.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
antiquated.
Yeah, flimsipan, whatever. That's paper.
More or less.
Yeah. I
was
just call
corrected on that.
I just called was it flimsy is the short term?
Yes.
Yeah, I just call it paper because I'm freaking lazy. And if I write flimsy, someone out there is gonna what?
You giggle.
What is this? I don't know what this. I don't want to explain it here. It's paper.
Materials is kind of an interesting thought, though. Like, do we have glass for windows still, or is it all?
There is glass. That's the thing.
Yeah.
What was it? Platysteel or something?
Plasteel is transparent steel is
Transparent steel. That's what.
Yeah,
Yeah,
transparent
that's-
steel is more common.
Like,
in like industrial societies, if you're talking more
is it just
buildings
for
of
the
religious or
ships?
delicate orientation, I would probably put it into glass over transparent steel.
Yeah.
I would think
But then
so.
you have things like, I had a tough time writing one fiction because I kept wanting to say light bulb, and there aren't light
Glow
bulbs,
rod.
but they're like glow
Glow
rods
rod.
and illumination panels and stuff like that. For instance, they're not floodlights; it's an illumination array.
Just call it a floodlight.
Yeah, but that doesn't exist in Star Wars. But again,
It's the
practicality.
Same thing.
People will know
That's-
it, but if you're going after somebody who has a red pen and likes the words realism, and may or may not
Yeah.
salute with one hand held out in a spear-like fashion, they will flag that portion of your writing
9.
and probably yell the letter 9.
The letter 9.
Number 9, whatever. My creativity is gone. It's a
Christ,
Tuesday.
Atra.
It's a Tuesday. I want it to be a Friday, so you all suffer with me.
Well, if we had recorded this on Sunday, we wouldn't have this problem.
I'm sorry I had a life.
Oh, sad.
Your lives are overrated. So,
And this
Well,
is why
I don't know.
Pravis is killing you all.
don't you keep using that word? I don't think it means what you think it means. You all, we, everyone keeps using these words.
I am not being killed. I am
I am
loyal
not
to the
being
Brotherhood.
killed. I am not an undesirable.
Anymore.
Like you're not going down with us.
I don't know what you're talking about. Y'all are gonna die.
Plot armor. I got plot armor.
Everybody in the club has plot armor.
Yay!
But I've also been threatened because for a half a heartbeat, I contemplated killing off Q in the recent fictions, and Adra's like,
No.
"You do that, I will drive down and murder you myself."
I know where you live.
Unfortunately, you do.
I don't care
This is a very
how
common thing.
I will get to him.
I make very colorful threats about character death.
Yeah. So,
Enter the droid noises.
yeah. So, anyways,
No,
I don't know how much of that is actual canon and practicality versus just semantics at that point, though, because a floodlight is just a light that floods the area with illumination. You could call it an illumination ray, or you could call it a floodlight. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
well, again, you go back to whether or not you're being a stickler for realism. I know.
I believe
that
that is called.
That's
I believe that is called pedantics.
no,
Yes.
that's called semantics.
Pedantics is when you're trying to prove the accuracy of something with learned knowledge and being all hoity-toity about it.
There's being pedantic and then there's semantics.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll say over the years, when I first came in, I always got comments on my fictions about not having like much Star Wars terminology, and over the various wars and vendettas, the one Saren comment left would be like, "Good job using more terminology." Okay, great.
Senpai noticed.
No. But I know I've had trouble in fictions before, not even just with various terminology and okay,
Well,
What?
something I
wouldn't be around, but also a lack of information from canon. Like
Yeah.
writing a fiction on Qyreia was the one time, and there's like 3 cities mentioned on the wiki page.
Yeah.
What the hell else is there?
I've done that
a
before where it's
bunch of
like I want
smaller
to
cities.
I want to find a cool planet that's in canon in order to write something that's not on one of your typical worlds. So I pull up that fancy dancy canon map. I click on a world that's near the region that I want to. It pulls up its wiki article, and there are no canon cities. There are some legend cities, but then it's stuff like City A,
Yep.
City
Yeah.
B,
Yeah,
like the most
canon's got
original names
nothing
ever.
right now.
It
It
depends.
really
Like
lends back to that. It lends back to your statement about the whole macro worlds or micro or what have you about
Yeah.
planets or cities, and if you're looking for a city, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah. You know planets, you don't know cities. Like Nar Shaddaa, that's a moon, but it's one giant city. Coruscant, it's not called Coruscant City A, Coruscant City B. No, it's the levels of Coruscant. You got levels, like 2,000 levels worth of cityscapes.
Yeah, and then you've got like sectors, just grid lines of the
Yeah.
planet, and that
And you had that,
denotes where you
and then
are.
you had that super deep area where the bounty hunters and criminal types hang out.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you got Naboo, where it's Otogunga. Then you have.
I didn't know that place actually had a name.
Yep, Otogunga, Naboo,
Mhm.
and the place set in the countryside where she goes to do that
I
stupid
believe
conversation.
I believe Feed is the city's name.
Yeah, Theed is the name of
Mhm.
the city.
Yeah,
I called it
Theed is the
Naboo.
And-
city. Yeah, Theed is the city, and then they have the
that's just a
lakefront
royal-
district.
Yeah, the lakefront district, and that's it. There are 3 places on the planet of Naboo you can go to that isn't jungle.
I thought that was just 3 named places.
That's how it works in Star Wars, is that it doesn't get a name if it doesn't get featured for whatever reason. So as far as canon is concerned, there are no other places on these worlds, which is why you
Yeah.
have to be more practical.
You fill in
Yeah.
the gaps.
Like, hey, I'm going to village A, B, or C, and you give it a, in this case, Nabooian or Nubian or however you want to say it, sounding name.
Nubian.
Yeah. You either invent something specific or you be general.
Mhm.
A village or a city, or you don't even name the city.
I mean,
Mhm.
it goes both ways. There's a lack of canon, and then there's bad canon.
Bad canon.
Lightsaber helicopters, anyone?
Well, I was wondering if you meant cities in this.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
it's essentially it's canon that we see, and we see it for, like, in this case, if you add up screen time, helicopter lightsabers are a thing for maybe a minute and 15 seconds in the entirety of the Star Wars compendium. That is how much time a helicopter lightsaber is a thing for. Clearly, it's not used before that. It's never even implied that that is a thing, because you would think a spinning lightsaber that lets you fly would have issues when you're holding it in front of you, walking towards someone. Maybe it would accelerate you in their general direction. I don't know. That's generally how you think physics
Airplane
work.
propeller.
But because that never happened, you have the one episode where it does the crazy, and then it's never seen again, and we can slip that little piece of canon into somebody was smoking the good stuff and
Whatever he said.
hallucinated.
That's how most of the script got played out, because it was the 70s in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, Carrie Fisher was always on something.
Oh, no
Really?
question. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, she'll be the first one to self-deprecate in regards to that.
Yeah,
I
they,
mean-
they admit to
Oh,
their...
70.
When you had to lay up next to a slimy giant slug and nothing but a bikini and half a drape, you'd want to be on something too.
Yeah.
With that
'Cause
little
that just
thing
sounds
laughing at you.
That just sounds like the
That
start
little
of a
thing needed to
really
be
bad
pointed.
Japanese porn.
Speaking of huts,
I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
another one of the Star Wars canon versus DB canon. We do not have
Yeah.
huts as
Well-
player character races.
The real thing for that is we don't support more than 2 arms. We don't support more than 2 legs. Less than 2 legs. You have to be humanoid. And it's deceptive. Our club is a game system without appearing to be a game system, so we balance based on certain prefabs. Now, there's only so much we can do within that system, so for the sake of balance, we omit what we can omit, and we keep what we can keep. So if that means your 4-armed serpentine person doesn't get brought into the system, that means your 4-armed serpentine person doesn't get brought into the system. It also means your furry little bunny friend doesn't come into the system, or your giant slug.
My former apprentice wanted to be one of the giant slugs.
Yeah, and goat married one.
Okay.
Wait, what?
It's an old CNS joke. Jack.
Ah,
It's Goat's hut wife. I'm sorry, Jack joke. What's the difference? I'm so sorry.
is your cat rubbing up
That'll be
along?
bleeped out.
No, that's not going to be bleeped out. I own up to my jokes.
Also, I mean, we've already introduced Jack in the first episode. He's been oddly quiet. He was rather loud earlier.
Yeah, it's like he heard the frequency of Addie's voice and bailed.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here's a good one, and I intend to touch on this subject in more depth later on. Deities in Star Wars. Speaking of, canon versus practicality.
Oh, well, there's a lot of different religions in Star Wars. If you look at Rebels itself, whatever race the big, tall Chewbacca knockoff is, if anybody can help me out here.
I don't know.
I don't
No,
watch
I don't
it,
know.
so I wouldn't
Let
know.
me do a quick Google. The power of Google compels me. Star Wars, Rebels, the Carabast people. They yell Carabast. It's an expletive from their planet. Lasat.
Yeah, did you say Lestat?
No, Lasat. Very close to Lestat.
Boo.
It's the language that's spoken on the planet Lasan by the Lasat species. So they had an entire section of the show actually devoted to their race's religion, because he met a couple other of his race, because their race was supposed to be wiped out, and they're very religious, and they view kind of like the Ashla and Bogan kind of thing. Actually, no, not even like that. The Lasat straight up believe in the Ashla as the spirit of the galaxy, and it is the personification of the Force. It is straight up followed. They're actually able to navigate through a cluster just using their bow rifles and their belief in this Ashla. So it's interesting.
I like.
Yeah. So religion is
Which is-
definitely there, and everyone has it. It all boils down to the Force. Almost every religion you see in it that isn't worshiping the shiny gold C-3PO god as an Ewok is related to the Force in some way.
And that's where I don't get it, because I've got to think that, going back to the idea that this is a large galaxy, there's got to be hundreds, if not thousands, maybe millions of different cultures out there, because there's just as many possible species. There's got to be something along the lines of what we would constitute as a non-force oriented religion. They have they're monotheistic or polytheistic, and they have designated deities. And I can't remember if it was the DJB or if it was prior, but I remember writing something, and I wrote like "God damn it" or something to that effect. And someone kind of pissed on me and said, "Hey, that's not Star Wars. There's no gods in Star Wars." And I'm going, "Are you serious?"
Well, to be
Mhm.
fair, I created a random deity for my character to follow, and that's why he will say by the goddess or something like that.
Yeah.
I say God damn it, or all gods damn it instead.
Actually, in that fiction was actually a role play between Abby and me.
Oh, Moon Lady. Yeah.
I mean, even in Extended Universe, it always came back to the Force, even when they didn't. There's one that was technically not Force related, but it still was the Force. It was a race in Extended Universe called the Ang T, and they're essentially Cthulhu. They were almost everyone. They never left their homeworld unless they were Force sensitive, and a fair amount of them were Force sensitive, and they were very strong in the Force. They were
Were they the
essentially
ones that
warrior monks. They have the squid faces. They kind of look like Tyrannosaurus Rexes with 3 fingers.
I was
and
going to
stuff.
say, were these the black and white salamanders that
More
look
or
like
less.
a Rorschach painting or something?
Yes.
I
So
love them. They're cute.
yeah, so these guys literally, they could fold space. They could use the Force to teleport instead of using hyperdrives. Welcome to the craziness that was Extended
Ooh.
Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And they believed that the Force was a gift from their deities, who they called, and this is why I call them Cthulhu, those who dwell beyond the veil. That is the name of their deities.
Jesus.
Hello, H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay. They were their deities. For all we know, they were just early space travelers, but they claim that these beings were the ones who taught them the Force. So religion, for whatever reason, even in legends, always comes back to the Force, because that is the immutable law of Star Wars. For whatever reason, is that this galaxy, unless your name is Yuuzhan Vong, is powered by the Force.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm glad those are no longer a thing.
And
Many people
they
are.
had some good ideas, but it's like somebody spent too long binge watching Hellraiser and decided
I was gonna
to
say like
make a
playthroughs
race.
of Dragon Age.
That too.
Mm,
But I'm sorry, a lot of stuff. Hellraiser came first.
Mhm.
So,
I've never seen Hellraiser, so I wouldn't know.
you're worse off for it, but I do not recommend it for our audience at home.
Isn't that the one with the pinhead guy?
Yeah, Pinhead. That's
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
yes, he's one of them.
It's had a lot. They're called Xenobites. Anyways, we're
Yes,
getting
Xenobites.
off topic. So
I'll
off
say,
topic.
I'll
As a
say,
little side note, the only reason I know that they're called Ewoks is from watching.
I am so glad your mic cut out there, because as far as I'm concerned, you were about to say the holiday special, and I was going to slap you.
What?
If you said the words holiday special or that stupid film with the Ewoks and the lost family and the craziness.
The two films, you mean?
No, nope, nope.
No. No, what I said was the only reason I know that they are called Ewoks is from a scene from the movie Scream 2.
Wait,
Well-
why do you not know they were called Ewoks before that?
Because they never called them Ewoks in the movie.
Also,
Wait,
the fact that I never
really?
really watched all of the movies until last year.
I try to forgive you that fact. I don't really recall where or how I knew they were called. Shut up. I'm trying not to out you here.
I outed myself.
Yeah.
They don't actually call them Ewoks at all in the movie?
I can't remember if they ever do call them Ewoks. I remember as a kid I thought they were Yub-Yubs.
Oh.
And at some point I knew they were Ewoks. I do not recall when this transition occurred.
I'm gonna have to like get the DVDs or something like that so I can watch it, because
I have them over there. It's possible they do call them Ewoks at some point, but
According to, I want to say, the caster of Keldroma, they call them Ewoks in the credits for Return of the Jedi.
right. So
yeah,
it's
because
never
as a
explicitly
6-year-old,
stated.
I was watching the credits.
Well, no,
Right.
as far as they're concerned in the movie, these are just native munchkins that show up out of nowhere with traps and bows
Those little teddy bears
that want to
vicious-
eat them.
Loompa.
Everybody likes to forget that the Ewoks wanted to eat them, roast them over a fire.
I believe it was more of a sacrifice to their golden god.
And do you think the Golden God was going to eat them?
They didn't know that.
They would
To
get
be
eaten.
fair. Well, speaking again of gods, we'll bring that back around.
Yep.
We do here in our society, across the world, there's so many ideas of religion, and it's very common, going back thousands of years, for humans out some sort of spirituality. So I don't wonder if the Force is supposed to be an analog to that, to just the idea of a god, rather than a god itself, and that's why it's so prevalent.
Well, it depends on what you look at. Like, when it boils down to the concept of the Force is balance worship. So,
True that.
yeah, it's all the same thing, but it's two aspects of that one thing. So it's a force that permeates everything, and they straight up, like, Disney's pushing hard the religion angle, other than Han Solo calling it a religion and them saying, oh, that ancient religion is dead, stuff like that in episode 4. It's not really touched on that it's a religion. I mean, you can look at episodes 1, 2, and 3 and go, yep, That's a religion. But
They're monks up in there.
yeah, there's some monks.
I
But
don't know why we attributed like a southern accent to
I
that.
don't know either.
They got some monks
Good
up in their Coruscant towers there.
Yeah, up in those damn towers. I like to go to those towers sometime. I hear they got good eats.
Yeah.
Ew.
My cousin, also my wife, lives up in there. That might be going a
God
little
damn
too
it.
far, especially since they apparently never married. There was no talk of a vow of celibacy, but it was pretty heavily implied.
Then I found out I was my own grandfather, and we just had a bad time.
Grandma?
I'm sorry, you do not let us go off on a tangent.
I need to go.
So yeah,
Now suddenly I'm wondering about all the possible brothels that surround the Jedi Temple because they're not allowed to have relationships, but cheap one night stands on the other hand.
but that is the path to the dark side.
Only if
Something.
No, I can't. I'm not
allowed.
allowed to say it because it would get bleeped.
Yeah. Hey, you know
Only
what?
if you put it in the wrong hole.
Actually, fun fact, going off on a tangent, it is technically illegal in Canada to do that with the exception clause of being married and being not of the same gender.
There's some weird laws out there.
Yeah. How old are those laws?
Very old, and the last time a Trudeau was prime minister, he said that the state should be kept out of Canadian bedrooms.
Damn straight, Skippy.
But it was never actually repealed. Anyways, random factoid about Canada for the day.
Hail Canada, hail Canada. They're not
No,
even
no,
a
you see-
country anyway.
The appropriate thing to say is that we're gonna go to the mall, everybody.
I like that
Someone better know that reference.
your microphone is self-muting you, so
Damn it. I hate this thing.
it
All
really.
right, backtracking.
I mean, like straight up, the moral of everything is that anything and everything is done in Star Wars, whether it's been thrown into the extended universe or into a novel or something. There's no such thing as that doesn't exist in Star Wars. I mean, we say that a lot, like especially when throwing things at canon, like you can't do that. That doesn't exist. I mean, it could become something, but we in the DB draw a line where we try and only introduce new things that are canon while maintaining old things that are legends.
I mean, to give an example, when I first started writing in the DB, they tried to tell me that a cigarette wasn't a thing.
Yes, it is. They call it
Cigar
tobacco or some shit like that.
Or, yeah, tobacco, cigar, cigarette.
Yeah, and like coffee is calf.
I'm still writing it as coffee.
It's calf.
Say
Don't
half
care.
as
Still
converted.
Oh, I mean, if you go on a Wookiee, it still says coffee.
Exactly.
Yep. But in new canon, it's straight up calf because that's what Luke brews. Because
Fuck
it's
new
the only
canon,
thing
fuck
it's the
Disney.
only thing Luke can cook is calf.
This
He
is gonna be my
burns everything
catchphrase.
else.
This is gonna be my catchphrase. Fuck
But it's
new
like-
canon, fuck Disney.
Things have to make sense, okay? There's no exoskeletons in Star Wars. What you get instead are droid armor. So they've had things where it's like you get into the suit. This is
Yeah, like a battle
extended universe, and it's a giant battle suit. It's like a mini mech warrior.
Yeah.
But there's no exoskeletons. There's no Titanfall jump packs. You have jump packs, but they're like bounty hunter jetpacks.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett. And even then, it's linked through a neural link in your armor, so good luck using it.
That actually reminds me of one of the other things. Tell me
I
if
just muted you in the middle of
Yeah.
your statement.
tell me if I cut out things like what metals do and don't exist. I think bronze is supposed to be bronzium, and I
Yes.
never catch that. Don't know if there are any other analogs.
There are several, and it's weird.
Well, and then there's the expansions on existing metals. So there's steel, But then there's Durasteel, which is the ultra strong version of
Yeah,
that.
the better one, the durable one, because it's Durasteel.
Sounds like something Billy Mays would sell.
I mean,
Billy Mays here.
But wait, there's more.
Okay, let's think about. I think I've mentioned this before, but the Crystal Heart in the extended universe, it had werewolves.
What?
Oh, yeah,
Werewolves.
Really?
They were 6-legged canines that went into a cocoon when they reached maturity and came out of it as a 4-armed human.
I read about those.
Those are werewolves, not werewolves, but werewolves. There were also centaurs.
You mentioned this in the last.
Yeah, so everything is possible, yet nothing is permitted, because what the hell?
Then there's guys like freaking Valentine Farfalla, who was apparently half Bothan, but had hooves.
Yeah, it's just...
Riddle me that, Batman.
It's being practical. Like, we keep going off on tangents, but that's the nature of it, is that there is everything going on in Star Wars, especially in the extended universe, which was a mess and contradicting itself everywhere.
It's like Assassin's Creed. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
Okay, Ezio.
But there's so many things that don't need to be said. Like, they don't dwell on medical practitioners other than like the droids you see in the movies, but you also see the occasional actual medical person, like the woman who worked on Chewie.
Hi.
So you must have been so brave. It just... It happens. You don't see people going to the bathroom in movies, but they do it. Sometimes you do. But, like...
Oh, yes, I successfully included Q having her period in this last fiction. It was like half a sentence.
Okay, but there are things that don't need to be said.
I know, but it's a point of pride that I add this shit in because no one talks about it. It's like underwear.
I grant you that.
I'm just waiting for you to call it Shark Week in a fiction.
I don't know. Are there
sharks are a thing? Yeah, actually, one of the evil dudes when they're taking over Mon Cal is essentially a shark.
Ooh.
He's got the shark face and the gills and everything.
Well, if the need for it to be mentioned comes up again,
no,
I'll consider.
Don't mention it. It doesn't need to be mentioned.
It did for the fiction.
Poor Qyreia will be so confused when Q says it's Shark Week.
I was gonna say more like Kira's gonna be really confused if in a few weeks, or Kira's gonna be really confused in a few weeks if Q suddenly has a belly bump.
Well,
no.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah. So that's why that was important. That's why it was important to mention.
It doesn't need to be mentioned, though. It can be implied, just like all. That's why it's practical. We know that people have showers. We don't necessarily have to see it. We know they eat. We don't necessarily have to see it. We understand these things. Some races are weird, though. It has to be mentioned because it's like, well, I'm eating. Why aren't you eating? Oh, my race does not eat. We subsist on air and happy thoughts.
I never drink wine.
Yeah. What do you drink? I drink wine and stronger wine.
Wine, the classy way to get shit-faced.
It's just, you can be creative, you don't need to be limited, and you can ignore. So, things that are stupid can be ignored, especially if they're so stupid to the point that the people who added it to canon ignore it.
You have a lot of freedom in your fictions. I think the only time you need to agonize over anything is during a war, for instance.
Yeah, wars...
All right.
Wars are where it gets really intensive. But we just released a new fiction grading rubric, and realism has gotten a bit of an upgrade in terms of the requirements on it. We also took entertainment value and merged that into story, because it doesn't need to be off in its own world.
Mm-hmm.
I like the new rubric.
Yeah, and the new rubric actually makes your character sheets matter. We're not going to go crazy heavy-handed and say, I'm sorry, but you do not have a pack of cigarettes. on your loadout. So what are you doing having a cigarette in your fiction? What is wrong with you? Do you hate me? Do you hate yourself?
I mean, I can answer one of those.
So more or less is just like, okay, well, don't have yourself piloting the ISS go suck a chode if you don't have pilot L on your character sheet.
You do not want my character trying to pilot anything.
Yeah, no,
Well,
like
that describes most of the people in the DB.
everybody who has pilot 0 can operate
wait. Which would be worse, my character or Addie's piloting?
Addie's.
Duh.
Actually,
has
no.
Pilot S at 1, but
Addie
not Addie.
has an excuse. She can't see. Celevon and Atra have no excuses. They can see.
They have minions for that.
Yeah, exactly. Case in point, Lux Venya, the Discipline Ace example.
Satsu's just a minion.
But Pilot 0 gives you access to speeder bikes, essentially. Is you can operate a speeder bike without anything. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, you don't need to really worry about balancing one because the repulsor lifts take care of that for you. It's like the new prototype motorcycle from BMW that is crash resistant. It's I'm sorry, they say it can't crash, but I say it can't topple. But if you drive that thing,
the Titanic couldn't sink.
if you drive that thing straight into a wall, that's a crash.
I'm sorry, they also call the Titanic unsinkable.
Yeah, I mean, more or
Clearly,
less.
they never ran into someone who said, "Hey, hold my beer and watch this."
I heard the most elaborate hold my beer today. Someone was like saying, while they bring up a good point, it is possible to do this in a way that it was showing a video on how to crack your own back. And he says, while that video is fascinating, I can neither confirm nor infer from this video, because they never stated it, why I would want to crack my own back, but that is not going to stop me from attempting this. And I told them that was the most elaborate hold my beer I have ever heard.
Nice.
I should work that line into a...
Hold my blindfold.
You know what? Sure. Sure. Drill daddy, hold my...
Or it's like, hold my cape.
Hold my braid.
Yes, hold my braid.
That just sounds like something that would happen at the end of a very fun night.
Right?
Excuse me, hold my braid.
That's not my kind of fun. That's not my kind of
where
fun.
my mind went at all.
Well, that's why it's at the end of the fun night.
No.
Fun
Still fun.
Still not. But,
Still not fun.
yeah.
I never said it was.
You said at the end of a fun night.
Yeah, what's at the end? The terminal point. What's the terminal point? Puking.
No, the end of a fun
Only
night
if you're
is
doing it
passing the-
wrong.
Yeah, exactly. The end of the fun night is when you pass the fuck out.
Yes, well, I think I've passed out all of
Can we get back to the fictional discussion?
Whoops.
Who knows? This whole story might be fictional.
It is, because how many party fictions have there been recently? The last quote-unquote Inquisition competition was a masquerade. Hell, anytime there's a Halloween or a holiday, there's a bunch of party fictions that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of falls into that practicality discussion again. Food in Star Wars. I get asked a couple times a week, does this exist in Star Wars? Sometimes it's something mundane. Other times it's stuff like, does sushi exist in Star Wars? And I'm like,
do you want it to?
I always go back to the Heir to the Jedi novel featuring Luke. They had Nerf nuggets and noodles. So they had Chinese stir fry as takeaway food in this novel.
I think you mean Epicanthix.
Yeah. Epicanthus takeout. So if it is, and by the way, that novel introduced a race that both Wally and myself were just giddy over somebody wanting to be it and somebody submitting to be this race, and no one has ever gotten into it. Essentially, these are people that are completely self-contained. They can, they don't really have a mouth, yet they can talk. They don't have eyes, yet they can see. And they can exist. They can exist in a vacuum for like X amount of minutes because they don't have anything outside facing, and their sense of humor, like to them, everything is math. You greet somebody, you greet them by giving them a math problem and answering that math problem. If you give them too easy of a math problem, it's an insult.
I don't like these people already.
Anyways,
challenge accepted.
And she tells the best joke, because in the middle of it, they're like, we need to come up with a code word, and she comes up with a math equation, and just the character, the way they describe it, it's the most adorable thing. Her mouth is hanging slightly open. Her eyes that aren't eyes got wider, and she was so like, it was the colon D face. And she's like, you don't get it. Why do you not get it? And they're like, what do you mean? She's like, I foiled your plan. Because it was like parentheses PL parentheses plus PL plus AN in parentheses. And it was great. As a math person, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I foiled your plan.
Oh my God.
And then but they were so good at math that they could mimic force precognition just through variables, just through predicting the mathematical likelihood of something happened, to the point that Luke was questioning if she was force sensitive. So it's a really interesting race that nobody wanted to get into.
I'm gonna need a picture of Hagrid with the.
In my opinion, this is probably a race that Timorous would be all over.
Please don't tell him that.
They have no their sense of humor is math. Other than that, they have no emotion.
Please do not tell him that.
I don't think he listens to these anyways.
But we're gonna have to bleep all this out now.
I got so sidetracked though. But that's
Good job.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
I don't even remember what I was talking about anymore. But no, that was interesting stuff. Yeah, right. So if they can have epicanthic stir fry in Canon, you can have your sushi. You can have your T-bone steak. You can have whatever you want and Star Warsify it. Nerf is your stand-in for cow.
Hey, and if you don't want to use the exact word, like sushi or hamburger, hell, just describe it. Use those fun things we call adjectives.
Yeah.
And adverbs. And, words.
Yeah, but we do have to draw lines. We keep, like I said, we preserve legends until Canon comes out to trump it. And we only add
newly canon Rin.
Yep, Rin or Canon again. But what we're not okay with, and what will never be okay, is plagiarizing other universes to use in our universe.
That would probably be a whole other.
That's a whole other topic for another day.
To what it constitutes.
We'll talk about plagiarism some other time.
That's inspiration versus plagiarism, but at the end of the day, you have to be, and we keep saying this, canon versus practicality, you have to be practical. There's a point where you don't need a canon explicit reference for something to be a thing.
And there's also a point where a canon explicit reference should be ignored.
Yes.
Just muted you in the middle of again.
Oh, of course
I got what she said. There's a case where in a canon, you ignore the canon because the canon is stupid.
Pretty much.
And now I've just got this image of like a howitzer with a derpy look.
I've been getting that image every time we say something about canon.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the 49-minute mark in this lovely conversation.
Yeah. So,
lots of tangents. Lots of things.
Hey, you know what? The tangents are what make it interesting.
Celevon, why don't you tell us a bit about, Celevon? But you only have 6 minutes. Go!
Sell in 6. Go, go, go!
What? great. Now it sounds like a fucking...
Describe your character. Quit digressing.
Describe my character?
What's his motivation?
His motivation is to make the galaxy a better place for his daughter to grow up in.
And how's he going about doing that?
Well, first, a daddy cell and a mommy person really loved each other.
No, not how did he get a child. How is he going about protecting this universe for the child? Which is, by the way, a worthy goal to, change the galaxy for one small child. That's just a blip in the pool of a galaxy of small childs.
Cough, chosen one, cough.
Well, to give an example, if he were to take an assassination contract, it would only be against someone that's a drug dealer who's committed crimes against children, or basically anyone that they would see as completely irredeemable.
Before we start getting too deep into the character backstory, let's start with some basics. Celevon is Force user, non-Force user, Jedi?
Force user. He's a human. Well, he was half a Johnny, but that's apparently not a species anymore. Still
For
human.
now. Okay. So he's a Force user. Alignment. Details, man. Details.
Details. He is a gray Jedi, obviously, in that he does not prescribe to any particular belief system.
Okay.
He sees the Force more as a tool and not to use it too frequently, so it becomes a crutch. I mean, specify what you want.
No, we haven't had to specify for anyone else. Step
Tell
up.
us about, okay, where does Cell come from?
Qyreia.
Yeah, recently
Thank you.
recently he got his
Atra.
memories back, so he now knows he's from Qyreia,
Okay,
where he actually was a street urchin in a very poor area,
Corellian
How did
street
he lose
urchins
his
are the
memory?
worst.
and where he was besties with Atra.
Don't know what you're talking
Apparently.
about.
How did Cell lose his memory in the first place?
Slavers hijacked their, I think it's called a freighter.
Yeah, it's spaceship.
Yeah, spaceship, and killed his dad in front of him. So, being that he was 12, he sent the ship into a steep dive and crashed it onto Onderon, onto the surface.
Okay, and this crash caused the memory wipe?
Yeah, head injury. He still has a scar from it.
Blunt force trauma solves everything.
Don't I know it? Okay, so Celevon's a Force user, apparently an assassin because he takes contracts for this stuff. From Qyreia, got his
And he's
memory
Arconan.
Yes, and he's Arconan.
And we all know what they say about Arconans.
They're kinky as fuck.
More or less.
Yeah.
That's one.
Speaking of which, we need to get someone that's not from Arcona in here,
I mean,
other than myself.
And then there was silence.
I mean, 2 months in
All three
Arcona
of-
kind of hardly qualifies me as Arconan, especially when I
Treat you or one of us the
Apparently,
moment
all
you
three of our guests thus far have been from Arcona.
Well, maybe more people should work under our time frames and, befriend us.
Oh snap!
just pose for volunteer. Like, hey, who wants to?
No, we
that-
could probably create a sign up form for potential guests, but I don't.
Yeah.
That'd be hard to vet for good quality conversations. But
And then
So-
you're gonna open that can of worms on
Yeah.
whether or not you get to vet. Yeah.
I mean, technically, we shouldn't vet anyone. Just say, "Come on, talk." But it's hard to talk to somebody that you really don't know anything about, and you don't know what they're going to talk about. It's something that a lot of people don't think about when you're talking about. This is both informative and entertainment, so you want to make sure that the people on it are going to provide information and be entertaining.
You know, Atra, it's a lot easier to provide entertainment if you stop talking over Celevon. Then he could tell us.
I wasn't
wasn't
aware I
saying
was
anything.
talking over him.
No, I wasn't saying anything. I
it
was
was a
politely being
joke.
quiet until he finished.
I was trying to be funny. I failed. Dishonor upon my memory.
You fail at the whole entertainment thing.
Dishonor upon your cow.
Oh, snap.
Anyway, so more or less, you've been developing Celevon for a long time. You have a long tenure of disappearing and reappearing.
I think this is where you ask how I came up with the concept of Celevon.
More or less. What were your inspirations?
Believe it or not, it was my final paper in psychology in college. How
Go on.
it was a case of how retrograde amnesia affects nature versus nurture.
I love nature versus nurture.
I love taquitos.
Throw a taquito at you.
Go on.
He's not a chew, he's a sneeze. Yes, I just dated myself. Continue.
Yeah, I took that argument and thought about how would that affect a character and change him from his origins.
There are worse origins for a character.
Before his memory loss, Cell was basically a street rat. He stole to get by in life, even though he was still a kid. The family went from homeless to, like, occasionally having a hotel room, or maybe even living in a house for a change. I don't know, it's really interesting to do. The kleptomania obviously carried over, because that's not really something that you can stop.
And where do you see Celevon going from here?
From here, I'm sort of changing his outlook on life, as he's finally becoming himself, so to say. He's coming to terms with the child he was before crashing on Onderon. Those two personalities combined lead to what we call Crazy Cell.
The Joker.
Basically, yes. And I'm trying not to use that voice right now. It's very difficult, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on when you said street rat, and I got the song from Aladdin stuck in my head.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Well,
Because now I have it stuck in my head. Riff-raff, street rat. I haven't seen this movie I haven't seen this movie in almost 20 years. You're evil.
It's never gonna go away.
Snack guys.
Let's not sing Aladdin. Let's wrap up the podcast.
Still, I think he's rather tasty.
Gotta steal it, eat, gotta eat to live. Anyways,
I just like that tasty line. My favorite part of the whole thing.
yeah, that line is just fantastic.
Would you say that it's a whole new world?
It's a brand new place to call our own in another podcast where we sing Disney renditions, and this is not that podcast.
Karaoke
So,
night.
any particular questions about my character, so I'm not just
Rambling?
in the dark here?
Shh.
Well, we've been dragging
Should have come prepared.
it out of you one tooth at a time.
And I'm not even a licensed dentist.
He's just lucky we're not sticking bamboo shoots under his nails.
Ooh.
Yes.
I mean, Guide to Torture 101, bamboo shoots under the nails are not a good time.
No, they are not.
Neither is bamboo shoots growing through you.
Now that's just a widely used medieval killing trope.
I don't know about medieval, but sure.
Oh,
Moving on.
it's practically medieval in terms of how kind it is.
Oh yeah, sure.
What time are
Bamboo
we
would
at?
be.
Oh, we're about to hit an hour.
Okay, yeah. How about we wrap this up with questions?
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll just wrap this up with a quick thing I wanted to touch on, some writing hints. I was asked about general advice, stuff that could help with writing by some of the members. My personal writing hint to folks out there, grab a thesaurus. If you write on Microsoft Word or any other sort of word processor, hell, just go online, look up a thesaurus. That thing will help you diversify your writing so much, and it'll keep me from having to read the same exact word over and over and over.
Heck, even just Google define insert word here, and it will provide you a list of similar words to that right underneath it.
Need to stress, however, to be careful in the sentence pick, because that word doesn't always mean what.
Oh yeah, be picky and choosy, but
well, and different words exist for a reason. They're there to provide a different sort of emphasis on it. And for the love of God, don't just go through a dictionary, pick a word, and be like, this word looks cool, I'm going to use it. No, know how to use it. Don't just know it's a word. Know how to use it in a sentence.
Connotation is magical.
Yes.
All right. So with that, that'll end our show for the evening. If you folks listening at home have any sorts of questions, queries, ideas for topics we could talk about, and as we pointed out, if you are interested in being a guest on our show, please contact us either via our emails or through Telegram.
And I will promptly ignore you.
I will not.
So you know who to ask.
I don't see this, so technically I'll be ignoring you too.
Yay.
Cool
Everybody
beans.
gets ignored.
Yay. Okay, so that said, thank you for listening, folks. Tune in next time where we talk about such fun things as writing disturbing and social taboos, war and conflict, and why sex and violence sells in a PG-13 world or something to that effect. Good night.
Don't come back.
Don't listen to him.
All right, fine. Bye.